Hi everyone, I'm Josh and welcome to Josh Wright Piano TV. I wanted to talk briefly today about the concept of having an inner circle of those who you trust with giving you critiques about your art. This is a very important concept that I've realized more and more the older I get, just how important it is. I have children now, I have 2 kids, and I watch them take others' opinions to heart, often opinions of their peers, saying things about them that either don't matter, are hurtful, or are simply not true. You have to be very selective about who you listen to in your artistic journey. I have 4 people who I listen to: Susan Dolmeyer, Sergei Babayan, Logan Skelton, and then the most important is my wife, Lindsay. Those 4, I will take pretty much anything they say to heart because I know they have my best interest at heart. None of them are going to ever try to hurt me for the sake of hurting me. If they critique something, it is out of love. It's not out of spite or for some type of gain or whatever it might be. And I can't say that about a lot of other musicians that I've interacted with. So I've actually learned the hard way from listening to people who I shouldn't have listened to, or being in master classes where people are, and it's fine to take master classes. You can't be so cautious, like, I don't want their opinion. That I've had mostly wonderful experiences in master classes. Garrick Olson, that was a highlight of my life. I think that was one of the best master classes I've ever been a part of. I did a master class with Leon Fleischer. That was amazing. I've done private lessons with Boris Slutsky and Awadadjan Pratt and many other amazing artists and musicians who, which those experiences I cherish deeply. And there's others that simply didn't offer me very good advice or things I agreed with. It was the exact opposite of what I wanted to do. And there was even a couple people who said really harsh, unnecessarily harsh things that weren't helpful whatsoever, especially judges after competitions. And I've heard some of those judges play, and I'm like, do I really want to even take their opinion to heart, knowing what they play like? So you have to be very careful about who you let in to your mind and into your heart. Make sure that you are strategic about who you let help you, because this is not an ominous thing. Like, if I listen to this person, my whole life's going to be destroyed. These are little things that can just eat away at you. For example, I don't read many of my YouTube comments anymore. I read some of them for the first 24 hours. That's a rule I set for myself to not have all the haters flood in. Usually the people who are viewing my videos in the first 24 hours are my biggest supporters, obviously. People who've subscribed to the channel, who have been very supportive, and whose opinions I am interested in hearing, mostly for new content that they want to hear. So that's one way that I've limited myself to exposure of unnecessary opinions. Others could be that you kind of put up a natural shield after a performance. So somebody comes up and they say, wow, that was just amazing. It's really easy to go the other way too, to allow all of these comments to puff you up and think that you're better than you actually are. Or the opposite, someone's overly critical of small little mistakes that you may not have ever made before. And they're like, that was a really sloppy performance. I can't believe you did this, this, or this. Neither of those opinions matter, because you have your inner circle of people whose opinions you care about. And usually those people are people you can have open discussions with. Like, look, this didn't go that great. And they'll say, yeah, that wasn't your very best, but how can we learn from that? And you can have actually a constructive conversation with them rather than a fleeting passing comment from some random person whose opinion doesn't matter. And most often, those overly critical comments come from people who have no idea what they're doing at the piano, or they know just enough that they think they know what they're doing. Usually the most critical people of me that I've noticed in the past are those who are not very good pianists, who think they're great, but they really are not. And the people who are The least critical are usually the best pianists. They're like, wow, I know how hard that passage is. You nailed that. Or, yeah, I remember how difficult this was if I made a mistake or something. They're like, yeah, that's a really tough passage. I'm not saying that I'm just looking for everyone to sugarcoat everything for me. I have a thick skin. I've been screamed at in lessons before by certain teachers. I won't name names. And I actually enjoyed it because I cared deeply about what they said. Now, all three of those teachers I mentioned, Logan, Susan, and Sergei Babayan, they're all amazing and constructive and loving individuals. But I can take it. I'm not some little, porcelain doll. But I've been in lessons before and mostly observed others. I haven't had the misfortune to be in too many lessons where people just pick me apart in a cruel manner, but I have witnessed that many times. Some really arrogant teaching from high class, very renowned teachers that were like, I'm only in Utah once in the last 10 years. You guys should be much better prepared than this. This is pathetic that you would bring me this. Like, what is that going to do for the student? That's going to destroy the student emotionally rather than help the student build that. Now, I've talked mostly about professional situations. Now I want to talk more about one-on-one lessons. Be very careful who you listen to in those situations as well. Find a teacher that you work well with, someone who is constructive, but who's also going to tell you if something's wrong. There's nothing worse than a teacher that sugarcoats everything and tells you you're wonderful, and then you never learn the instrument. I had a student many years ago who was playing the first Chopin Ballade, and she didn't know how to count 16th notes. And I said, why aren't we counting here? She said, I've never learned to count those. And she was such a brilliant student. I loved her. I said, look, you got to make sure we start counting today. And sure enough, she came back the next week. It was counted perfectly, and she did great. But she was thirsty to learn. Her other teacher was holding on to her, whether it was for the money or out of affection that she just loved working with her, even though she had no business working with this student anymore because she had surpassed her with her level. You want someone who's going to challenge you, who will be constructive, and who is going to help you holistically on your journey as well. Susan Duelmeyer, the principal teacher of my wife and I for many, many, many years, and I still go see Susan a few times a year, even to this day, was just as much a therapist and life coach for us as she was a piano teacher. I'm not saying you have to have that, but it sure does help if your teacher can help you navigate the emotions of your art just as much as they can the inner workings of the interpretation or the technique or whatever else you're struggling with. So create that inner circle, create a group of people who are very supportive, whose opinions you trust, who will tell you when something's not right, but who will also be constructive about how they do it. I hope that's been helpful. If any of you have any questions, my email is josh@joshwrightpiano.com. If you wouldn't mind subscribing to the channel and liking this video, I would truly appreciate it. If you find any value in these videos, that helps the algorithm or whatever it is to push this out to more people. So I appreciate you doing that. I'll also leave a few links to a free webinar in the description below containing 10 of my favorite tips to help take your playing to a higher level. Links to my 2 paid courses, Pro Practice and the VIP Masterclass series. And finally, a link to my gear kit, all the gear I use in this studio to film these videos in case you're wanting to make some recordings of your own. Have a great week. Good luck in your practice sessions.